Hey guys, it's Brittany and
Hello,
Shane.
guys.
All right, we're bringing you along for our 2025 goal setting,
Mhm.
planning our year ahead conversation. And as we kick this off, we wanted to bring you along with us this time.
That's about it. We're setting ourselves up for success for our next chapter of life.
All right, let's go. All right, so we are talking all about obviously, this is the week of New Year, which
Yep.
is my favorite holiday. I just love that it's all about like new beginnings. I also like that I feel that we take this intentional moment to pause and reflect a little
Mhm.
bit, and then really looking at like the hope and the joy and the just anticipating that as we move into 2025. What do you love about like this particular week?
I like looking back and seeing your accomplishments of this last year.
You
I
do.
think if you spend so much time looking forward and keep climbing that mountain, you'll never realize how far you've come. And I know we do like annual yearbooks for our family, and it's so cool to see not only pictures, but accomplished sticky notes, accomplished tasks, and just the progress that we've traveled in just 12 months.
Yeah. So you think that you agree how important it is to like we start our 2025, we start our annual goal setting and what are we going to do this year? We start that conversation by just doing a quick look back, and you think that that's really important.
I do. I think
Yeah.
starting on a high gives you more
Mm,
momentum. I think starting in a low, in a place of struggle, maybe can make it more difficult to get out of that hole. But if you're already feeling really, really good about yourself with last year,
if last year was a good year, what
that
if
is true.
the year was like a crap year? Because and this is something that came up for us over the holidays when we were spending some time with our family. It was like last year or 2024 was such an incredible year of growth for us, and just noticing the very polar opposite
Hmm.
for some of our family members where 2024 was one of the toughest years that they've ever had.
Yeah.
So to your point on what if you're looking at this year and you're just like, gosh, get me out of it as fast as possible. How do you switch your
Mm.
mindset then to be positive and hopeful for the year ahead?
Easy answer. I don't know. Um, I do know that having a spouse that I can talk to on about everything, if I did have something bad, I can help get myself out of it through our relationship. And I think that having that community and that relationship and that open communication can help you get past those hard times. Um, I've also seen people that don't have that. They
Mhm.
have to kind of build up that momentum by themselves. And if you just have a good friend, a good brother, a good sister, just open up that door and know that it does take a village.
So you still, even if you know that this past year has been crap, you would still start this whole like conversation either with yourself or with someone in that state of reflection, like acknowledge the crap year for what it was.
Mhm.
And I think that's important too. Acknowledge the crap year for what it was, and or acknowledge the highlights of the year for what they are.
Yeah.
And then just taking that moment. I think it's important. We've talked about this too, the importance of showing gratitude, whether it was super awesome or
Yeah.
super not awesome, like having gratitude and finding something to be appreciative, yeah,
Mhm.
of whether it's the man, that was a really tough struggle, but look how it turned out on the other side, or look at how I grew, or look at the strength I gained, or didn't know I needed, or
Yeah.
something like that. Like finding a positive. What am I trying to say?
I don't know. Something that came to mind is like accountability. I think it's nice to
Mm,
have someone with you to say, hey, you're not doing what you said you would do, or hey, that's a good change, or you're doing great at that goal. But I feel like if you set a personal goal, that if you don't accomplish it or you do veer off, it's okay because guess what? No one knows. It
yeah.
can easily go into a closet and you can close that door and keep going.
Yeah.
And I just feel if you have someone else, anybody else, to just talk to about it and hold yourself accountable through that communication, I feel like you're more likely to succeed and have more momentum to keep going up.
Yeah, I like that too. Okay. So when we start this conversation, we normally have, like I said, that moment of reflection. And then I think we really start going into, okay, let's just do a quick check-in on the things that are still really important to us. So we like make sure that our foundation still is in place and is that we're the things that we say that are important to us, that those are the things that our calendar clearly indicates that are important to us, that our bank account clearly indicates that it's important to us. So walk like what from your side, what does that kind of like check-in of our foundation look like for you?
I would say looking back on the year, seeing what not only accomplishments were like checked off, but what processes got those. If you have common denominators through all your successes, but you also have common denominators through all your failures, then I feel like you can reestablish where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And if one of your weakness is, let's say, faith, then you can give next year a little bit more attention. If you have a weakness in your personal health, like physique, show that little more attention. But if your common denominator is a good relationship, then you know that's a strength that you can rely on. So I think looking back and seeing what works and what didn't work, I'm struggling this morning.
I know, it's like it's so hard. More coffee, more something, like anything. Hey, but we're doing it. We're showing up.
So, I definitely feel like you can kind of see my analogies again. What plants are growing healthier and taller and bigger because those that have the better soil and a better foundation and the better roots are going to thrive. And at the end of the year, it's not just what you feel. You can actually visually see what plants had the best soil.
Yeah. I love the roots analogy. What if, and something that was coming up for me was like this concept of how you have to be radically honest with yourself, like during this process, and just because that honesty is where, and it's not only with yourselves, but then like also with your partner who you're doing this life with. And even to not just a partnership, but like any other relationships, like if the relationships that are thriving and doing really well in our lives, maybe that needs to have a very different conversation than like a relationship that isn't thriving in our life. But if that's supposed to be a foundational relationship, or if we desire that, being really honest with ourselves and really honest with the other party that it's not where we want it to be. And hey, in 2025, this is my hope for us, or this is my goal for us. But I think this concept of being radically honest with yourself and then radically honest with the folks who are going to be required for you to take like yourself into 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of to expand on that, I always feel that if you want to go down a journey, you need to be open enough to let everybody know what journey you're going on. Because like, for example, if you go to a party and you're doing dry January and nobody knows, then it's going to be harder for that group of people to support you.
Yeah.
If you want to go on a diet and someone's wanting to take you to Taco Bell again, you're like, come on guys, like I need a little bit of help. But if you weren't openly honest with your community, like you will not receive that support. And so it's like, it shouldn't be a shock to your friends and family what you're doing. They should know what you're doing.
Yeah, I liked how I think it kind of became a neighborhood thing last year that we all did dry January. Like that was, it was because we were all hanging out so much, especially during the holidays too. And so then and I think the fact that because at one person started talking about their desire to do it. And then it was like, oh, I'll do that too with you, bud. And then before you know it, not only were you like honest about yourself that this is something you wanted for yourself, it was a goal you wanted to kick your year off with, but then by actually communicating it with the people who are part of your roots, before you know it, I mean, there was like 10 of us doing Dry January, and it helped
A lot.
it was huge. It was huge. So I think I love the communication piece. The communication piece, the community piece is big too. What about, let's see, anything else as far as like the being just radically honest with yourself? Where does that get hard for you?
Radically honest?
Yeah, like with yourself. Ooh, good question.
You go first.
Me go first.
Let
oh
me
crap. Think. Okay. But then you're not listening if you're thinking.
I'm trying to do both.
Okay. Where do I have to get radically honest with myself? Okay, we were talking about this yesterday, actually. I had this moment where it kind of stung a little bit. I did amazing things with my business over this past year, and there's no doubt about it. Like the ways that I grew and the things that I developed and the foundation that I laid in my business. But, and here was the part that kind of stung. I still very much so prioritized a lot of other things, and not bad things, not unnecessary things. Like, for instance, I can tell you, I prioritized my mental health over going out and getting a client. I prioritized, like, making sure that I took time to be still over tossing out a digital course in the first 30 days of me leaving my corporate job. Like, I was really intentional about what I did. And so it's not that I have regrets about where my attention and focus was. And the business was still on that list of priorities. But like we talked about yesterday, is as we set goals for 2025, I know that the goals that we have personally, the goals I have professionally, the things that I know I'm being called to do, and the impact that I'm being like, that I know I'm supposed to have with and through and in this business, it is going to require me to prioritize the business more than some of those other things that I did last year. And so I had to get really honest with myself about where did I really like place that, because everything does fall into a ranking system.
Yes.
And I know that my business needs to rank higher next year, and that is absolutely going to require more of us. And we're okay with that, is because we're talking through it and what does that actually look like, and things like that. So that was an area where I had to get radically honest with myself.
Okay.
You go now. Or do you want to add anything to mine?
No, I think I'm going to expand on it, because you did bring a lot of things to my mind, and kind of what I took a similar path, just a little bit different. I feel that when you're radically honest with yourself, and you have set a similar goal for years after years after years, and for example,
I was like, I've
had a weight goal that I've wanted to hit, even though I've never hit it. I have been happy with my physique, but I've never hit the goal. But
are you trying to hit the goal this year?
I feel like, and that's the thing, that's the part that's hard, is when you're radically honest with yourself and you look back and say, I've failed 8 years in a row. Why try again?
But you hit the goal, but that doesn't, like, that whole failure concept.
But it's like, right? If you want to do something, or say you want to travel, or say you just want to do something, and it's been on the year end or the January to-do list year after year after year, I just find it hard to be honest with yourself to say, I have failed 8 years in a row. What am I going to do different this year to actually make it happen? I think that a lot of people do, including myself, I'm going to work out better. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to travel more. Like, there's very common things that are thrown out there, but are they always hit? Because if they are truly hit, why are we back in this situation every
year?
12 months?
Because you're saying that it's you get to December, January, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to hit that weight goal. You don't think that you don't think it's that you're getting to January every year and you keep getting better.
Yeah.
You think you think that you see for yourself and for a lot of others that it's always chasing the same goal. It's not necessarily getting better.
I would say if you ask where the radically honest portion gets hard. And I think the radically part gets hard is where there is a goal that is set a decade ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, that you're constantly working towards, but not getting there. And I think that's the honest, hard part of saying, like, I want to hit this weight goal. I want to hit this BMI goal. I want to, and it's not about physique. It could be about anything that's just easy for me to comprehend. And at the very common one, like gyms explode in January, February, March, and then April and May. It's like they're dead again.
They're like, oh, I had a gym membership.
Yeah. and so I feel, be honest with yourself and find out again what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And if you're trying the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, like that's the definition of insanity. And that's why these things don't work, and it turns into a hamster wheel. Next year will be different. Next year will be different. And if you're doing the same thing, it won't be.
So then why do you, because I agree. Like I've talked to several folks that are like, I don't make New Year's resolutions, or like that perspective that you just brought to the table. It is a common perspective. Then why, for instance, do you and I do New Year goal setting? And why do we, like, why have we been, and we've done this for years. Like it's popping up all over Instagram. Like it's the coolest new dang thing, but we've had a like come to Jesus year-end conversation every single year. And whether we're sitting there going, well, our New Year's resolution is this, or it's just like hey, look at the calendar. All right. And this month we're going to make sure that we do this. By this time, we want to make sure we've got this, but this was like, if that perspective is out there of like, hey, I'm just going to be tossing out the same dang thing every year, not hitting it, I'm setting myself up for failure, then like, why do you and I have those conversations?
I think we have those conversations because it's not only a 12-month conversation. We're having this conversation, if not weekly, but monthly. And so this is just the summary of our last 12 meetings consolidated into one, because, and I feel like a broken record, but that communication works for us.
Yeah.
If we have the same conversation every month, and then have this one every 12 months, then it's just a review. It's not groundbreaking new information. Now, is it an excuse to start something new? It is. And I definitely, I am not a fan of let's start on Monday. Let's start on January 1.
Do not do that.
I really don't like it. If you want something, like
start now.
Do it now.
Yeah.
And I think like you brought it to my attention with running the business and doing just everything. If you have that good idea, longer you think on it, you're eventually going to talk yourself out of it.
1000%.
And so it's like, if you want to do something, do it and write it down. Like take the time to write it down, write down how you're going to do it, exact goals, like make it detailed to the point you don't forget in a week. And you can only grow in that way rather than, well, I forgot the third step.
Yeah.
Now I'm done.
Well, and I think that that's something that's really key in how we do our 2025 goal setting. So a couple just like general suggestions that we've done is just flat out getting a notebook, and it's like, what are we going to do this year? And it's like, oh, I really want to buy a boat. Oh, I really want to move. Oh, hey, remember, I think we're going to start a family, like whatever it is. So writing those things down and then actually going through the calendar and going, okay, when could we do this realistically? And then putting like actual, just general timelines. And it's something not that we like, hey, well, we couldn't buy the boat by July like we wanted. It was actually August. We're failures. Like, no, but it just gives, I think that it allows our brains. I think it allows our communication. I think it allows the way that we actually live our lives to get behind that goal when at least there's a general timeline behind it. So I think that's really important, just from how you mentioned the importance of having a plan or a how or like a detailed next step, because I think sometimes you may not know the how, but at least if you can set the hey, and I'm just using a boat because that was one that we did years and years ago.
Oh, it's
But
still on the dock.
I know, babe. I know. We'll get it back. But it was like, hey, we want to, buy the boat by July, which means, okay, we need to be able to have a down payment for it or financing locked in by this time. And then you kind of work yourself into it. And before you know it, you've got just something that feels manageable, like bite steps, like, oh, it's January. This is the month that we need to do this in order to hit our goal. And it just kind of helps keep us on track. So I think having that plan is really key.
Absolutely. And I think that instead of having one big plan, you take that big plan and you knock it down to steps. And that way you can keep yourself accountable and say month one, our goal is to have a 10th of the down payment, and then 1/5, and then so on and so forth, where you get closer to your goal. And that way you don't get to a September deadline and then you're 9 months down and you're like, I completely forgot that was my goal.
Crap.
And so I definitely do think that you account for like double the budget, double the time. Like things are more expensive and take longer than initially anticipated. Like things happen. People get sick, like work, family, life, sports, all that comes into play. And then life looks different. And I also think that plans and goals and all that does look different. So if you get to September and you don't get the boat, but you got a razor instead or dirt bikes, like life changes, wants change. Like that's okay to go in other directions. And I think to your point, just keep moving in the right direction and planning it out.
Well, and I like how that you mentioned, thank you. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's a key to success or especially key to getting to your goals is when you make the plan, actually planning for life to happen. So, and something we've always lived by is it's going to take double the budget, triple the time, or all depending what it is, triple the time and double the budget. Whatever it is, it's like, that's always out there. And so it's like, okay, well, if we want the boat by July, let's move it. Like that's fine. But if we need a 10th of the, payment by January, let's say that we actually need it, by January 15th or whatever it is, like working in life. So that's a good one. I also think, okay, so another way that we've done this is with sticky notes, which is what he was mentioning. We actually have, if you're on video, like checking out YouTube, you can see these were our sticky notes for last year. And it was just like, what do you want to do? So if you're listening on the podcast right now, like I said, you could go to YouTube and check that out. But our sticky notes are all over the place. That level of organization, for the record, gives Shane such massive anxiety. So he said we will not be doing sticky notes this year. But just the sticky notes of like, we had a couple different pages, notebook pages out. And then we both had our sticky pads, and it was like, oh, what's something you want to do? And it's like, oh, Shane wrote down, oh, I want to get a tattoo. And it was like, that kind of went on the Shane or the personal, goal paper. And it was like, oh, Brittany's going to quit her job. And that went on the professional growth paper. We wanted to get the kids' rooms redone, and that went on like the home improvement paper. And then just kind of putting them all over the place and giving your snapshots of the things in the areas like personal, professional, as a family, kids, physical, mental, like all of the different kind of
envelopes.
Envelopes. Yeah.
a filing cabinet. Like you keep
Yeah.
it all organized and you can better see it and see
Mhm.
progress. But if you have 100 items in one bucket, only one gets done, you're only at 1% done for that whole bucket. But if you
Yeah.
only have 5 items and when you get one done, that's 20%. That feels great.
Yeah.
So I think dividing it up into manageable buckets
Buckets.
or envelopes helps it stay
Well,
organized and more easily accomplished.
and then too, you can prioritize. So when we looked and it was like there were, 5 different items on the home improvement list that we wanted to do. It was like, okay, well, what's most important? It was like, oh, well, we're going to need new screens before summer. So that should happen in spring. Oh, the kids' rooms, let's
Mhm.
realistically, with everything else we've got going on, that's not happening until fall. Okay, put it on the fall list. And so it did. It just, when we put everything into those envelopes or those buckets or those categories, however you want to say it, it just made it really easy to take each bucket at a time and prioritize and then put those timelines in place. Um, what's another one we've done? So we did this a long time ago. We haven't done this recent. So maybe, but it's where, so we've done, and this was like a couples exercise actually a while ago, where like both of us did 2025 planning almost on our own. It was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, what are the things that you want over the next, or not 2025, but it was like the next year. What are the things that you want to accomplish in the next year? And then, hey, why don't you toss a couple things that you think you might want in the next 3 years? And we did that individually without additional conversation from each other. And then we came together and it was like, okay, what's on your list? And it was like, okay, well, what's on
Yeah.
your list? And then we there was that moment where you're like praying, okay, it's the 3-year plan. Are we still on the same page? Are we still in the same book? And in the areas where we weren't on the same book, it created an opportunity for us to have a very honest conversation around
Yes.
like, dang, you want that in 3 years? Like okay,
Yeah.
how?
Everything's possible.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So that's another way that you can do it.
I personally like the notes in the phone. Now,
You do. Oh,
just to let everyone know, don't save it on your iPhone because you accidentally hit the delete button and everything's gone. But
he's still salty.
I definitely do think something's that's always with you that you can keep track. And if you have downtime,
Mhm.
see where you're at, see what you can accomplish in that moment. If you're at Home Depot, if you're at Walmart, if you're at wherever, you can always accomplish something or prepare yourself to do that. But if
Yeah.
you're running out to the store, you come back home, then you look at your list and you're always playing catch up. So
Yeah.
having something that's easy for you, and for me, it's in my pocket most of the time, and I can
Mhm.
see what I'm doing. And the one thing I ask you almost every time I leave this house, is there anything I can do to make your life easier, our life easier, and anything that I'm missing?
You know.
And I think that again, just constantly talking about it, following up, and having it organized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed. What else from a like as you're thinking about the conversation that we're gonna have over the next week for what we want to accomplish in the next year, just in general, what's set us up for success with this conversation?
What has set us up for success?
Yeah, like in previous years, or like what else do you think is important to bring forward in when having this conversation again, even if it's like with yourself, like sitting down, you're like, what do I want for my year ahead?
I think going back to the honesty part, I
Mm.
think that throwing out objects that seem too good to be true, it's like when you get that deal, it's too good to be true. It's probably too good to be true. Like set yourself up for success. Like do something that you know you can do. And if it's a stretch, go for it. But if it's too far of a stretch, sometimes people stretch themselves too far, and when a rubber band is stretched too far, it breaks. And I just feel that setting yourself up for success and knowing your capabilities, looking in your toolbox and seeing what you can actually accomplish
Mhm.
could really set you up for success and actually get those boxes checked by the end of next year.
So it's really important for you when doing this that like there's a what's realistic component Like not like how much, what, like, I don't know how to ask this. Maybe it's like the percentage, like what percentage do you like try to keep your head on hey, I want to make sure that 90% of my goals and what we put down is realistic. While maybe the 10% can be dreaming and woo woo and sure. Like what percentage would you break that down?
I don't know. But I do think that majority should be just beyond your fingertips. Like just
Mm,
like if it's easy, you're I don't want to say you, but I'm not fulfilled with easy check boxes. Like doing laundry on a weekly basis. No, that needs to be done. That's not a checkbox. That's life.
life.
But helping train your family and all working together as a
Train your family.
team.
That's not nice.
I'm training myself on a daily basis. Like
I know.
training is just redundant activities so they become second nature.
Yeah.
So we're all learning and growing together. Training definitely, in my mind, does not have a negative connotation. So I'm sorry if I offended you. But no, it's like if the shirt's not super dirty, like or the hoodie. I think a hoodie is a good example.
Okay.
You shouldn't wash a hoodie every time you wear it.
I think it depends what you did
But
with
okay.
in that hoodie.
But when the kid puts it on, it's like, nah, this doesn't look good. And he puts it in the dirty clothes. You're like, come on, let's help a little bit.
Kids.
So I definitely do think that doing good goals for not only yourself, your spouse, your family, that are just a little bit of a stretch, but still reachable.
Well, and I love like what you're saying because for me, like there's a piece of me that's like listening to you talk about a 2025 goal being around laundry and like this is like fizzled out for me because
Nope,
I'm
I'm
like
done.
that stinks. Like in my like if for me, I'm like I want like these big grand goals. And you're right though. You are right though about like the setting even the things that just like make your daily life easier are
Mhm.
are things worth having goals around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think that I appreciate that. Although like I fizzle a little bit, I appreciate that you bring that aspect in. And I think that that's also where like I'm a good balance for you, where I'm like, okay, now that we've talked about how frequently you want to do laundry, let's talk about more fun things.
You gotta have laundry to go everywhere.
Lies.
If you want to go naked,
No, stop it. Stop it.
You gotta be prepared.
Yeah. I think that a part of like when I'm looking at the year ahead, a question that I ask myself is who do I want to be in 2025? And then I just kind of let my brain, this is where I really try to almost like let my brain shut off a little bit and let just like the emotions take over a little bit, or even take just like let the dreams kind of happen. It's like, who do I want to be in 2025? And it's like, well, I want to be like, I want to continue, like, I want to be a more patient and understanding parent, or I want to be a more like connected spouse, or I want to, so, and I list those things out. And then again, this is something I kind of do on my own and then bring it to the table is so okay, who do I want to be in 2025? Because I know that the person who I want to be, like who I show up as, is that's the person, that's the best version of me that's actually going to be able to accomplish those even like those other goals. And I go, okay, well, what would that look like? Like if I'm going to say, hey, I want to be a more patient and understanding parent, what would that actually look like? And sometimes I'm easily able to find an example. I'm like, oh, I just did that last week when I was doing this, and kind of to give myself a little pat on the back of encouragement and momentum. And that feels good, which then helps. Or other times it's like, man, I am really struggling in this particular area. I, want to, whatever it is. And then actually going out and seeking resources that are going to help paint that picture for me of what it would look like to be a more fill in the blank of the desire. And then I bring that to the table, like, hey, so one of my personal goals for 2025 is to be more, we'll say, patient and understanding parent. There's this, book out there that I want to make sure that maybe I read in the first quarter, and then you can do the audio in the second, or whatever it is. But again, it goes back to like personal goals that then get communicated, like collective goals for our household, for our family, like you're mentioning, even some of the day-to-day stuff that can get communicated, and a plan gets baked into. What else? You looked like you had some thoughts on that one.
Yeah, my wheels are turning.
I know.
I feel like in that aspect of like seeing where you want to grow personally comes back to, again, broken record, community and communication. And I love it when we have friends in our house, family in our house, that we can look back on and be like, or not even look back on, but look at in the moment and say like, wow, they handled that situation how I want to. And then that's also a reassurance that you have the right community around you to grow together, because sometimes it's a lot easier to grow with someone right by your side. Like, if you have a good travel couple, if you have a good parenting couple, if like your kids get really along with other kids, and things are easy, like maybe you're in the right community and you're learning from each other and pushing each other to grow in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think that the hands-on and the open dialogue to figure out, like, I did this, what do? You saw me do this, could I have done it better? And like, one thing that I have lived by for years is leave your ego at the door. And like, you're never gonna be the strongest guy in the gym unless you train right. You're never gonna learn, you're never gonna grow if you're so blocked off. And I think that breaking those walls down and really coming down to your foundation to build you up from the bottom rather than just keep piling on top, because then it just gets too top heavy.
Yeah, I just think this, and I think both of us, this whole idea of like, we're just not meant to do life alone.
No.
And what you like put into relationships, and what your standards are, and what you tolerate, like that's all really important things. And I do some of my trainings are on like that whole around like, what are your standards for your life and your community, and what do you tolerate in your relationships? Because what you tolerate in your relationships is then exactly what you get back too. But like what you pour in, and I think that openness, I think that like leaving the ego at the door, I think that not being afraid to, we talked about this literally on our way home last night. It's like, man, so for what about this goal? I don't know how to do this. Like we were brainstorming, who could I maybe ask for some advice? Or who could I lean into as a resource to help me accomplish this goal? And we were talking about the who, because I think that that's just as important as anything when you're looking at like the how am I going to get this goal accomplished. It's baking in and at least taking a mental note of the who is important too.
I definitely think that seeing it done is a lot different than knowing how it's done. And I'm very visual, and I like to see how it's done, not just Google how to become a better dad. Like,
God, that could be so bad.
Who knows what you're going to read or where the source is coming from? And if you don't trust the source, then how do you do it? And if you don't see it done and you don't see the result of it, like if you Google how to be a better dad, you're not going to see the smile on the kid's face at the end of it until it's actually done. And then when you see the smile, you see the hug, you see the response of the child to the dad or child to the mother, like you see that work, that was a success. And every kid, every parent, every person is so different. That you actually got to do it.
You have to actually, the action.
And I think that's part of any 2025 goal that you set. You got to do it.
Yeah. It's one thing, like the first step is literally to have the, like, to reflect, to do the action, like to create the plan, or to, it's, I guess, like to trying to sum it up here a little bit, like I normally do in my episodes. So it's like to start the conversation or to start this whole process, it's a point of reflection. and part of that reflection is like a checking in with your morals, your values, what is your foundation that you want, and being radically honest with yourself. And then like acknowledging the desire. What's the desire? What's the goal? What do you want?
Well, don't forget the reflection of last year too.
Yeah.
So not only a reflection of where you're at, but what you've accomplished.
Yep. Last year, foundation, and then the desire, like bringing the desire forth. And then the next step after that is like putting the plan together. And the plan includes things like timelines. It includes identification of like resources and who
time
will be
community help, finances, all the things.
Yep. And then what? And then the final step is you got to go do.
You do. You got to collect your resources, delegate if you can. And I don't say delegate as in someone else is going to do it for you.
No,
but definitely delegate in the aspect of like reach out to those with the resources and have them learn from them.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that do your inner work, find out how to do what you need to do, and writing it down on paper isn't it. Like you got to do the research. You got to do, like, if you're doing home improvement projects, go out and look at 1,000 different pictures of what you want, and then sit them all down, compare them, and then you got to start putting the effort behind it to actually bring it home. And so I definitely think that action in itself is like planning, resources, and then doing it.
Well, and I just like want to clarify when you say it's not just writing it down, like there is an importance of writing down your goals, like so that you can actually see them in front of you and you can make those plans. And then two, like, I've shared this statistic with you. It's something absolutely astronomical. It's like they say that like 70% or you're like 70% more likely to actually accomplish a goal if you write it down, because of what literally psychologically, biochemically happens in our bodies when we just write something down, whether it's on ridiculous sticky notes or whether it's in a notebook or on our phones, like whatever it is. But actually taking pen to paper is part of that, putting your plan together and taking action.
Agreed. And I'm not downplaying the writing down.
Okay. I just want, I want to clarify because we write ours down.
My personality is very hard on myself sometimes. And so in my mind, and please know this is all personal inner work that I'm working on, that the writing down is like, quote unquote, the easy part. That extra 30% is the finish line. You're not going to accomplish that goal like without just writing it down. Doing it. Like, in my mind, I'd rather do it wrong 3 times than do it right the 4th time, because then I did it. I learned and I grew and I did it. And so, I want to push myself to do them rather than just write them down. I've seen a lot of my notes just get pushed down the list.
You're just sad that you lost all your notes this last week. That's what it is.
They all got pushed away.
They're all gone. There are no more notes. Nope. I know. We'll figure it out.
Hey, maybe it's a blessing. 2025 with a fresh slate. Maybe.
Maybe. Way to be positive, babe. All right. Anything else for this? I think, like, for me, it's just I'm grateful for you. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the conversation with me. Thank you for doing this with for our family, for our life, for me, for yourself. I've seen all of the benefits over all the years, and I'm excited for our 2025 conversation. I think I'm also a little not anxious in a bad way, like anxious or excited in a good way, because I think there's pieces I'm like, oh crap, I've really shown him what I can do. And now it's like, okay, let's like really turn on the jet fuel.
That's what I love about you. And I'm so grateful is that you not only show what you can do for yourself, but you can show what you can do for others. And you're not only willing to hold yourself accountable, but me, and heck, you can hold the world accountable. And just I think that you're an amazing resource to help grow, and coming up with all this is just an amazing process, and I want to thank you.
It's been cool. All right, babe. Well, hey, cheers to 2025. And you guys, if you are interested in additional resources to help you do your new year planning, conversation, anything like that, like this, I live for these kind of conversations. Like, as you can see, I've roped him into this too. And so I'm happy to talk with you. You can reach out to me at brittany@brittanytalinci.com. And the show notes, I'll go ahead and have an inquiry form in there too. But let's talk. Let's make sure that you two have someone that you can bounce your ideas off of for what the heck you're going to do in the new year, how you're going to get it done, who you're going to get it done with. And I'm happy to be that person in your corner. So let's do it together. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. It means the world to me that you're here to ride in the struggle bus with me and that you're willing to consider different perspectives, tools, and techniques that just might provide a little bit of relief and get you one step closer to the abundance that is available and waiting for us all. I hope you take a moment to grant yourself some grace where you've been denying it, some love where you didn't realize maybe it was right in front of you, and some faith where you thought all was lost. If this episode had an impact on you, would you please share a comment with a review? I'd love to hear what landed for you, and it helps us get the word out to our fellow struggle bus riders. So please review what was impactful for you. Just know these episodes are a pure labor of love in a space where I'm growing alongside you. I'm evolving every day, and I look forward to all the ways and the things and the perspectives and opinions and choices that will change over the course of time in my own life, day to day. Until next time, just know that you are loved, you are divinely cared for, and in the struggle, the journey of this life really is beautiful. I'm glad that we're in it together. Cheers.